Welcome, good people. How are you? I hope everything is well. I am Tracy, the Sacred CEO, and welcome to Life After Divorce Show. It is the show dedicated to having the discussions concerning marriage, relationships, divorce. And we are committed to bringing awareness and shed some light on strategies that assist in restoring our faith, purpose, love, and happiness after divorce. I am a true believer that everyone deserves happiness within marriage and without marriage, right? I think that we all have a level of inheritance when it comes to being happy, and it should be acknowledged whether you are married or not. I think that we have come into this culture that success is for especially for women and for men, but mainly for women, is that true success, is connected to marriage and children, and that just isn't effect. There are many women who are not married who are very happy, happy with their lives, happy with themselves, happy in their relationships with friends and family and loved ones. And then you have women who have no children and have decided not to have a family, for their own personal reasons. And that's okay too. And they're happy in their choice. So, life after divorce is here to help us to look at things in a different way and take this marriage and divorce piece out of the box. Okay. But I am here today because we are on episode 9, honey. Episode 9 of My Divorce Story. My Divorce Story airs on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. So we had an interesting election. It is an interesting time to witness, okay? Post election has brought up a lot of feelings for everyone. And how we are within the Black culture, we're taught to love and to join into love relationships through um, tradition. And I think that tradition has definitely impacted um, our decisions, our decision making concerning Black love, marriage, family, values. And I also believe that it has impacted us in the areas of trauma and lies, right? So I know many of you are hurt, you're frustrated, you're angry. Some of you may be happy about this election and post election. Either way, my words to you are: no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save us, beloved. So I ask you, what are you doing personally to change the situation, to become the change that you want to see and experience? Post election brought up some feelings for me, honey, some real feelings for me. I thought about how many of our grandparents struggled, to keep the family together, and how many of them, dedicated their lives to making changes, significant changes for their livelihood and their survival, but also for our survival, right? So, many of our grandmothers, and I talked about this in episode 8 of My Divorce Story. If you want to go check that out, I talk about how many of our grandparents were experiencing racism and prejudices and having limited resources due to Jim Crow. And so just with that alone brings a lot of stress into the family dynamic, knowing that your resources are limited, not knowing, a lot of times if you go to work, you're going to be, fired for something very frivolous due to some type of prejudice or discrimination, right? Not knowing sometimes how we're going to feed the children. Like, for them, they survived, but life was hard. Life was hard for many of them. Everybody didn't come from money or have a silver spoon. Many of them learned how to struggle and how to survive. And in that struggle, I thought about how our grandmothers, how we already being affected by Jim Crow, and then our grandmothers are being affected because they have no personal resources. They have no access to money, to a bank account, to property, to work. They had to stay home and take care of the kids. So that meant if Papa, grandpa had a family across town, or was they was experiencing infidelity and things like that, there was really no way many times that grandma could get out of that situation. So I thought about that. I thought about how we were already oppressed as a people, and then for grandma, great grandma, to be oppressed in their home in an unhappy marriage. And if she wanted to leave, she didn't have any resources for herself and nowhere to go. And I truly thought about that. And it was like, wow, we've really been experiencing, excuse me, a lot of different dynamics that were unhealthy and extremely dysfunctional. So post election also brought up feelings for me on how we within our Black culture are taught to love and to join in relationships. How are we taught to love one another and join into relationships? We are influenced by a different set of rules. Those of us Africans here in America, those of us, our culture, we are influenced by a different set of rules. And these rules have to do with culture and tradition. Culture and tradition. It has to do with intergenerational history. Okay, a lot of these decisions that we make and are impacted by intergenerational trauma. And I'm telling you, just kind of some things that I've studied being in the healing field for a very long time. I've studied that we have a shared experience. And in that shared experience, it influences our love, how and why we get married, the family dynamic, our values, and it influences our lives. So I'm about to get into it. How does it influence our love and how we choose love? Let's get into that. One is because we have something called intergenerational trauma. Intergenerational trauma is known as a shared experience with a generation. Okay, many of our intergenerational trauma has to do with some, slavery. Okay, not all Africans here in America, not all melanated people, but some. Okay, do you study your history? Okay, so with that, we have a shared experience where many of our ancestors had to endure trauma, lots of trauma, lots of hardship, lots of violence, death, so that we have that shared ancestral history. Okay, then we have racism. Now racism is a prejudice against race and ethnicity, of which systems are in place that express and support discrimination. Okay, systems are in place that support and express discrimination. So I feel like many, when I didn't even go online yesterday. I didn't go online yesterday at all because I already knew that a lot of people were hurting. I knew that a lot of people were hurting. And I also, I got a few texts and a few phone calls, and I heard from different people that, people were crying, people were upset, people, it to me, it didn't matter whether you voted one way or another for me, because the system is still faulty. And we are still in a system that does not benefit and support our our ethnicity, our people. We're still in a system that doesn't support it. So no matter who was going to be in that seat, that system, they still was going to be reigning under a faulty, racist system. So it did for me. Yes, would I have loved to see, a black woman in office? That's rare. That's not something that's done. That would be making history. You correct? So yes, I would have loved to see that. I would have loved to witness that. But just going much deeper than that, I'm looking at the system. Okay, the system of things and how this system has betrayed us in so many different ways, right? So due to intergenerational trauma, due to racism, then we have post-traumatic slave syndrome. Okay, check out Dr. Joy DeGruy on YouTube. Post-traumatic slave syndrome, that is the condition by which it exists that a population has experienced multi-generational trauma, going back to the intergenerational trauma. It's called post-traumatic slave syndrome. So we have all of these things that are in our genetic memory from years and years and years back. So yesterday, by the hurt and the pain that many people were feeling, was an unlocking of generational trauma. You weren't just feeling pain because of yourself. You were feeling pain for your children. You was feeling pain for your parents. You was feeling pain for your grandmother. You was feeling pain for your grandfather. You was feeling pain for the community, for the culture, for the people that look and share the same experience as you. That's what a lot of that was about, right? So then you have these Jim Crow laws that came into effect. And Jim Crow is when state and local laws were introduced, mainly in the South, all right, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that enforced racial segregation. And then they implemented what? Black codes. The black codes were the codes that they implemented in up under these laws to continue in segregation, to enforce the systems of racism, to enforce the prejudice. Okay. And I say all of that to say that our experience as Black people, women, men, mothers, fathers, right? Husband, wife, mate, spouse, however you want to see it, same sex, love, however, it is an expression of pure love, empathy, understanding. Now, check this out, with continuous affection in tough moments. Why is it continuous affection in tough moments? Because of our what? Shared experience. Our shared experience, our shared cultural and ethnic trauma. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I don't see that as healthy at all. I don't feel that that's healthy. And I'm going to get into it. Just hang in there with me because I'm getting there. I'm getting somewhere with this, right? I don't feel that this shared cultural and ethnic trauma that we hold so dear to us, and we continue to have this devotion that in the same intergenerational trauma is the culprit of what? Struggle of. The culprit of struggle love is this intergenerational trauma because we are having a shared cultural and ethnic experience. And what we have learned to do is devote ourselves because of that experience. I've done it. This is called My Divorce Story for a reason, because I'm going to share with you how I was actually groomed and raised and programmed in my household to connect with my mate, spouse, husband, and to endure struggle love. Okay. It has to do with a generation. Okay. Generations before the 1970s, we all learned struggle love. 95% of us learned struggle love. Right? You hear it in the Psalms. You hear it in the Betty Wrights. Piece of man better than no man. Don't blame Mr. Charlie. Mr. Charlie is just the man. He's doing the best he can. Look, okay? Time out for the Betty Wright. Time out for the piece of man is better than no man. And I even had a sister come to me and she told me, sis, and this is when I started decentering myself from men. Now let me explain about this decentering myself from men. When I say decentering myself from men, I don't, it does not equate that I don't love or like men. That's not what it equates. What it equates is that I will no longer put a man before myself. I will no longer honor and value and worship the male energy and male deity over my feminine energy, my divine feminine presence. Okay, that's what that means. I am no longer the supporting role. I am no longer the helpmeet. I am no longer just the support system for his vision, his dream. I am no longer just the carekeeper of the children, the homekeeper, the housekeeper, where I could clean up and the cook and the secretary and the therapist and the masseuse and all this and yeah, no, I have denounced the role. Okay, I have denounced that role. Now, I desire to go into a healthy relationship in where we share in roles in the man, this male, this beautiful man will support me just as much as I support him. But this scale cannot be weighed down and tipped all on my side. No more. No more. But I was raised and taught to do that because of this intergenerational trauma being the culprit of that struggle love, because our parents and our parents' parents and our parents' parents' parents, that's what they did. They was taught to stick and stay no matter what. Keep the family together. And with that rhetoric, with that theology, with that value system of keeping the family together no matter what, that usually meant that most of the time, 90% of the time, the women, the wives, were accepting a lot of emotional, mental, financial, and physical abuse. Because we were taught struggle love. We were taught to support him, Maintain the home, maintain him, take care of him, take care of the children. Okay. And if you work too, then you had to go out into the work field and go show up for the men in corporate or in your at your job and your place of employment. You had to show up and smile there and take care of them too. Then if you went to church, you also had to serve in a way that you would had to take care of some type of post or honorary prayer warrior, evangelist, go see the sick and shut in, or children's ministry, vacation Bible school. It's always something. It's always something. And all of this was done on the backs and the love and the sacrifice and the commitment of Black women. Of Black women. I was raised in the 60s. I was born in the 60s, raised in the 70s. Okay. That was a time when it was civil rights was high, social revolution was high. It was Black power, Black love, Black. We were learning about who we were, our culture. We were standing for something. We came up off our knees, and started going in, and we had the Black Panther movement. We had the Pan-Africanist movement. We had the Black nationalist movement. We had the Move movement. We had so many movements. We even had our Native American brothers and sisters, who many of us aren't just, our ethnicity is just not African. Many of us, like we like to say, we got Indian in our family, right? Because, if historically speaking, many of us were already here. All of us didn't come here on slave ships. All right. But that's another show. So as we endure this struggle, love, and we are supported, I'm taught that I'm supposed to be, with my Black man. I'm supposed to love him. I'm supposed to support him. Why? Because when he goes out into the world, he's not treated with respect. He's not seen as a man, and the white man is keeping him down. Now I'm going to be 100% clear. We are in 2024 and we have so much access. We can have more, don't get me wrong. And there still is an uneven playing field. And that's why there was so many tears. That's why there was so much anger. There was so much bitterness. You have people who are just downright frustrated and exhausted, right? But that's because we still are feeling the residue in the energetic past relationships of sacrifice, especially as Black women. We've sacrificed for everyone, and we downright tired. We give, we share, we sacrifice, right? We divide ourselves up in all of these pieces and share our goodness, our loyalty, our commitment, our gifts, our logic, our values, our love, our compassion, our kindness. We share it with everyone that comes into, that we're connected to in some way, that comes into our world. We're always constantly sharing usually without an even exchange. There's a lack of reciprocity. Okay, so let's talk about these levels of trauma. We have intergenerational trauma. You have generational trauma. You have family trauma, social trauma. What is social trauma? That's the racism and the prejudice. And then you have personal trauma. That's a lot of trauma. That's a lot of trauma. Intergenerational trauma, generational trauma, okay? Family trauma, social trauma, Then personal trauma. Not to say, I'll add even one more, economic trauma, right? Right now, the economy, everybody's unsure about the economy, right? Everybody's experiencing some type of economic pinch right now. Most people, even those of us who are extremely optimistic, right? And we are creatives. You know, we have multiple lanes and multiple streams of income. We too are also feeling the pinch of the economy. So, with the pinch of the economy, along with this post election, along with feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and tired, we had a breakdown. Most of us had a real meltdown, a real meltdown, right? We had a real meltdown. And I want to say that that meltdown was justified. It's justified. It's justified. Okay. So, generational trauma, family trauma, social trauma, personal trauma. Okay. Sacrifice. We're taught to sacrifice, always sacrifice. They've even taught us that in most of our religions. Okay. I'm not here to debate religion. Whatever works for you works for you. However you move and whatever, you give reverence to, and who is your personal relationship with your religion and your spirituality and your supportive God source. Hey, I'm not even finna step on that. But what I will say is that the major religions teach a lot about sacrifice. Sacrificing. We are taught as our culture, our community, our race of people have been taught sacrifice in hard work. Sacrifice in hard work. And if you think about it, we've heard that throughout the generations. We sit down and we hear the stories about mama and grandpa and grandma and aunties and uncles. And what do they talk about? They talk about their sacrifice and their hard work. And that's why this generation now is like, they not finna do all that hard work. I understand why we have a gap in understanding with this new generation, because this new generation ain't playing that shit. They didn't come here. And we actually need to be proud that they didn't come here to be slaves. They show us all the time. They didn't come here to work hard. But they need to also be creative enough to find what it is they're going to do. And maybe we need to help them with that and bridge that gap. So we've learned to sacrifice. We've learned hard work. We have a shared bond, a community, a familiarity, and an intimacy in that. This is what Black love is for us. This is what Black love is. It is the expression of that sacrifice, that hard work, that shared bond, that community, that the familiarity and that intimacy and an understanding. It's an unwritten, unsaid, it's not even talked about. It's an understanding, a silent understanding that we already have one to another. That's Black love, right? But I'm here to share that in that we've created some toxic relationships one to another, and we've also created a lot of dysfunction. A lot of dysfunction. Okay, so we don't tend to decide our relationships based on values, ethics, and systems other than sacrifice and hard work. That's usually how we're valuing the relationship. Sacrifice and hard work. That's that struggle love, right? Because we constantly hear what? Love is all we need. Love is all we need. How many of us was raised with that? Love is all we need, honey. Love is all you need. You don't need nothing else but love. And many of us are choosing on love alone. And I'm here to tell you, love is not enough. Because at one time, love was all we had. Think about that. At one time, love was all we had. That touches my heart. At one time, love is all we had. But now we must evolve as a people, as a community, and understand that love is not enough, and we have to stop romanticizing love alone. All of my relationships, I chose them with a framework of struggling with my man. This is my personal deception concerning love. This is something I was taught because I seen my mother struggle in her love. And as Black women, to prove ourselves, constantly proving our self-worth to our men, to the world, to our communities. And we was going to sacrifice and commit ourselves and dedicate ourselves to our men and our families, no matter what that looks like. And if that means we had to hide things and lie, because Black people, baby, we know how to lie. Let's get into the lie. We know how to lie. We've been taught to lie. We've been taught to lie. I can remember the insurance man coming to the house, and I was to go to the door and tell the insurance man my mother wasn't home and she was in the back room. Right? I can remember my mother getting money from somewhere else, and because she didn't want to tell her man, because she didn't want to upset him and bruise his ego and start a fight, she would lie to him and tell him that she got the money to pay the bill through an agency, when really another man came and brought her the money. She had to lie. Mhm. She had to lie. How many of us still do that? Taking care of business, making sure things are getting done, being taken care of, needs are being met, especially if you have children. Needs are being met, and you going out there, and sometimes you don't want to, you can't be honest because he may not have it, and you'll go take care of it some other kind of way and won't make him responsible for what it is he needs to do. I used to do that. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I was taught that. I was taught that that's what we do as Black women. We show up and we take care of business. And if we need to lie in order to handle it, that's what we gonna do. We also was taught how to lie to white folks. And what? Code switch. Let's talk a little bit about code switching. You know, when you're talking to the boss, you don't talk to the boss like Renee and Shay Shay from the block. Or you're not going to talk to the boss like you talk to your aunt, your uncle, your mama at the house. You're not going to talk to the boss like you talk to your husband. You're going to get extremely proper, right? And you are also going to use a different language. You're not going to use the language you use with the family. Right? Why? You taking care of business. You got a code switch. We've been taught to lie. We cannot show up as ourselves and be culturally correct in every instance and experience here on this United States. We can't. We can. We can if we choose to. We can, right? I think a lot of rappers have that advantage, because they like that whole black culture piece, and it's making them money, and long as they can make money off the record, the record sales, hell, they okay with how they talk and come and drink and cuss and perform. That's acceptable in that world. But everybody is not a rapper. Some of us are carrying forth a very prestigious persona in position in life because we desire to make changes for ourselves, our family, and our future. So we wouldn't dare speak to those people we connect with, those other people that we connect with, in a way that we speak at home. I just seen a Instagram post of it was two anchors. They were black. They were anchors, and one is an anchor for a news station, and I guess the other one's an anchor. He does the weather. She came home and said, "I'm going to do my anchor voice when I talk to him. Let's see how this works." She went in with her professional anchor voice and talked to him and asked him about what they was eating, what they was doing, what he was doing, all that. Like, she used this whole anchor voice, and he was just looking at her like, really? Like, you tripping. Why? Because that's not her when she gets home. So we have to constantly flip personalities. We have to constantly code switch. We have to constantly, and we can go in and out of it. No problem. Why? Because we was taught how to do it. We was taught how to survive. Now, we also do that in our relationships. We do code switching in our relationships. Yes, we do. Mhm. How many of us, particularly women and men, men, they good at code switching. Oh, men are great at code switching, honey. I had an experience where my previous husband called me out my name, and I was so outdone because I don't talk to him like that. One thing I prided myself is I had a lot of respect, even though he showed me a lot of things that just weren't honorable as a husband. I still conducted myself as a respectable wife and woman with him and out in public. Why? Because this is my persona. This is who I have to live with me. It wasn't so much for him. It was how I decided to carry myself because of my character and what I feel and value about myself. So, he called me out my name, and I was just appalled. I looked at him, I said, one thing I have always done is respected you, and I've never called you out of your name. And hopefully I never have to. and I never will. But I never know how I'll be driven, right? But yeah, he called me out my name. And as I, went in on him and told him how disrespectful that was, and how, how is my husband, you as my husband, going to talk to me as your wife in that manner? I am your wife. I am your queen. I am your confidant. We lay up. You are inside me. We are connecting energies and consciousness we are creating memories. We laying together, eating together, intimate, sharing secrets, talking, laughing, all of the things that create this union. And you gonna call me out my name? You will disrespect your wife? That is showing me how you feel about me deep down. Like, do I truly deserve that? And as I began to talk to him, he became convicted. I don't know if it was a true conviction or a false conviction, because all of a sudden he started crying. He started crying. Like, really, like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I was like, okay. I didn't know. I didn't know, if this was real, if this was Memorex. I didn't know if this was fake. I didn't know what. Hey, I was just like, okay, well, I honor that. He apologized and he said he would never do it again. Okay. Yeah. But about a month or two later, he did it again. And once again, I got that ass respectfully, never using a cuss word. Okay. Choosing my words wisely. And he cried again. I said, oh no, he code switching. He don't mean that. He don't mean that. Because he already promised me he wasn't going to do it, and then he turned around and do it again. No, this is something that is in him. This is something that he regularly does. This is just now coming out. Okay? So that's what that's about. So we've been taught to lie. And we know how to do it well. And we've also been taught to lie in our relationships. So we need to stop romanticizing love in marriage. We need to start discussing one another's relationship values and asking mandatory questions before we choose to get married. We have to start asking mandatory questions instead of the ring, instead of the I do. So my suggestion is to write down your values, your concerns, okay? Your concerns with family, with finances, roles, goals, partnerships, and discuss them without compromise. If something is a hard no for you, once you write these things down and you discuss them, and he comes with the opposite of the value system that you feel is strong and is your belief system, and how you really choose to honor your marriage and your relationship. And if he has a value that goes against that, and that's a hard no for you, don't say yes if it doesn't sit well with you in your spirit. If it doesn't fit your value system, don't say yes, because that never ends well. That turns into a big ball of confusion and controversy and ends up in anger and resentment. Be honest with yourself. Be very honest with yourself. And it may be some values that you're not going to be able to agree on that's going to let you know this is not the relationship for you. And it's okay. It's okay. There is someone out there that will honor your same value system. They are preparing themselves for you too. So just be honest with yourself. Save yourself years of stress, time, energy, and a whole lot of money, honey. Whole lot of time, energy, and money. Do not exhaust yourself in a relationship where the values are not matching and not meeting up. So before you get married, we need to discuss bills, parenting styles, credit, debt, religion, how to deal with family members, both sides. What beliefs will you instill in your children? What spirituality or religion will you go move forward with? Childhood trauma, sexual expectations, partner expectations, family health history, bucket lists, and your dream home. Finances, that's a big one. What do you want to make in the year, 5 years? What do you want to do as far as your career? And how are both of you going to support one another in your career goals? That's very important. You know, you have a woman who may have this career and have this education, and she did all these things to become this astounding person with purpose and live that experience. And then she meets a man who doesn't want that. He wants her to be at home taking care of the kids. If that is not on your list of values, do not accept that just to be married to this man or just to say you've married, just to have the wedding. It ends in disaster. It might not happen in the first 5 years, but I have so many women that are DMing me right now who have been married 28, 35. I have a woman who was married 42 years and decided that she has not lived the life that she set out to live 40 years ago. And she is disgruntled, frustrated, angry, grieving. Now she has health issues, all because she wasn't honest with herself. So love is not enough. And these are things we need to think about so that we can avoid struggle love. I am Tracey, the Sacred CEO. I thank you for joining me this evening for Life After Divorces, my divorce story. I hope that this brought you value and information that you can move forward and take into you choosing a proper, edifying, spiritual, soul stirring relationship and experience. It is so important. I also think that we need to ask, how do we solve conflict? These are things we need to ask. And these are things we were not taught to ask in our culture. All the things that I mentioned, we were not taught to ask in our culture. We were not taught that these were mandatory value systems in order to choose a mate and go into a relationship. Many of us were not given any information on how to choose a mate. You know, I was depressed for the past 2 weeks, hard down depressed, deep depression, because I was angry with my family, particularly the women, because I felt like they just threw me out there to the wolves with no instruction. And I talked to one of my friends and I was telling her about it. And I was like, I need to talk to the women in my family and let them know, look, I don't want to know what sounds good. I want to know the truth. Why didn't y'all give me any instruction on how to be a wife, a mother, a lady? I didn't get any instruction. Y'all just throw a young girl out there to the wolves, right? I was upset. I was extremely depressed behind it. And I wanted to call the women. And she said, girl, don't call. I'm going to tell you why you didn't get it. Because they didn't have it. They didn't have it. They was winging it too. I'm going through life winging it, winging how to become a woman, how to take care of the kids. I'm looking at examples and things like that. I'm just winging how to be a wife, all of this, how to be a wife. I think even though I was winging it, I knew what I desired in a husband and I knew what kind of wife I wanted to be. And I knew how I really wanted to create that foundation. And I wanted to definitely create that foundation with love. Love is the foundation. Let's be clear. We do need love, but it's not all that we need. Love is the foundation. And then it also has action connected to it. You cannot love somebody without acting on it. Someone cannot love you without acting on it. You should feel the love by how they show you they love you. And please understand that everyone does have a love language, but struggle love ain't part of my love language, baby. Not today. Struggle love is not part of my love language. I'm I'm big 100 with y'all. I'm a little too bougie for that. I've outgrown it. I was bougie in the struggle love. Every mate that I connected with in every marriage, all of them called me bougie. All of them called me bougie. And what I learned is the fact that they called me bougie, and I need you to take this, and I need you to go ahead and put this in your juju bag, baby. I need you to go ahead and put this and write this down and go ahead and put it next to your heart. Anytime a man calls you bougie, understand that he is under your pay grade and knows he doesn't deserve you. I don't consider myself bougie. I'll accept it though. But what I really consider myself having is standards. Even in the struggle of, I had standards. I had a way and a standard of living that I enjoy. And I love nice things. And I love to travel. And I love to shop. And I love to invest money. And I love to create finance and network and have beautiful, edifying relationships with positive people who are also making it work and have money and travel and eat good and love. And yes, I love it. And because of that, and because I have the ability to connect with people who also do that, I was considered bougie. So it let me know that I was choosing under my pay grade. Baby, I'm done with that. I'm done with that shit. I love you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening on this beautiful, beautiful evening. Understand that you are just grieving right now and you have a right to be upset and you have a right to be hurt, and it's okay, but you're not just hurting for yourself. What you're feeling is ancestral pain. Understand that this system was never designed to give us rewards and benefits. Okay. We are in a system where there is a superiority with them and they have a so called white privilege. And then there's an so called inferiority with us. In order to be superior, you have to have someone that's inferior. And that's how they've designed it. And anyone that's in office is going to uphold that system. So let's get over it and let's do the work. Do the work you need to do to see the change that you desire to see. You can't complain about what is it if you're not doing the work. So you're going to do the work for your individual self, then for your family, and then for your community in that order. But love is not all we need. It is just the foundation. I love you so much. Thank you. And I care for you because I care for me. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. And make sure you tell a friend and share this with a friend so they too can find value and be honored with the information that I shared with you this evening. And also, if you want to be part of our community and get exclusive content, go ahead and join us and check us out at lifeafterdivorce.com and join our email list. All right. Our membership for our Divorce Cafe is going to be starting very, very soon. Our Divorce Cafe is where we will meet up online and in person once a month to discuss topics of loving and restoring your life, your purpose, and your confidence, and living your best life after divorce. Peace and blessings.